Training camp is here and things change when training camp gets here. And that's why there's 5 players we're going to talk about on today's show that are rising up the rankings because of what they're doing in training camp, starting in Denver. Javonte Williams, Bloom, we talked about it in the preseason watch list, audio only, where mandatory minicamp, Javonte was sluggish. I had put it out there on the show, like, is he even going to make the team? Because Samaje Perine looks like Samaje. Jalen McLaughlin looked fantastic. And they do like Audric Estime, although he was hurt at mandatory minicamp. So the summer goes by, and Javonte comes back, and he's slimmer. He's trimmer. He's lighter, per Sean Payton's request. And not only that, the burst is back with Javonte on a team that's going to run the hell out of the ball with a young quarterback in Bo Nix eventually. But this is about Javonte Williams and how it looks like he may be back to pre-injury form, completely different information, new information than we had just 6-8 weeks ago.
And I think that what this does is it justifies taking him where he was going, where there was no justification taking him around the 9th or 10th round. And I still like a lot of other players more than Javonte Williams around the 9th, 10th, maybe 11th round. But we saw last year on a team that wanted to run the ball, he got over 250 touches, and there was really no particular week that you were really excited to have him in your lineup. He was more emergency depth. Can he be more than that? Well, if he's got more burst, yes. If he's going to hold on to that role, there's nobody like Audric Estime pushing him for those early down touches last year. So you add it all up, and even though Javonte Williams is a player where there's a lot of positive buzz, now that training camp has started, it doesn't necessarily mean he's rising on draft boards for fantasy only because he was already too high. Now he's justifying that maybe he should have been there all along. If his value had corrected back to be responsive to what we were hearing about him in the spring, he would be a riser. And I do think that if you want to put your chip on Javonte Williams, it's that year 2 removed from an ACL, hungry player. He knows he's probably going to get one more significant contract, if one, next year. It's now or never. And it's always good to hear that a player is responsive to his coach's requests.
Yes, and they certainly do love Audric Estime. Like, they love him, and he looks like the Hulk, and he's a hard charger, and he's a better receiver out of the backfield than some people think. So whereas 6-8 weeks ago it was Javonte will be competing with Samaje for the final roster spot at running back. Now it could be just, Samaje. Sorry, they can save $3 million, I think, by getting rid of Samaje Perine. So Javonte Williams, a player now that should be back in your good graces. We'll continue to see what they do in the preseason with this team. David Njoku, they're talking about him having an even larger role. Now, you and I love the game of David Njoku. We've seen it. I seen it. And now more. Wait a second. I mean, I was happy with what we got, but I'm always happy with more, Bloom.
And again, this is one where David Njoku's value possibly reflected too much his strong end of the season with Joe Flacco. But we did see right before Deshaun Watson went out, the volume for David Njoku start to go up. Elijah Moore didn't really work as that volume guy. We'll see about Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, who they did, by the way. There was some contract money drama with Amari Cooper, and the team said, okay, we'll kick you down something. We're going to show you that you mean something to this team, not necessarily a new deal, but something to show that you are appreciated. But for Amari Cooper to be appreciated in fantasy, you need that downfield passing. And see, even if we think back to the good Deshaun Watson in Houston, it wasn't based on barnstorming, throwing the ball 40 yards downfield like Joe Flacco was. So that all leads back to Njoku. And now you get confirmation from the team. Yeah, David Njoku is a guy that we're going to see central in this passing game. And when you think about the focus that we're hearing from Ken Dorsey as the new offensive coordinator, it's going to be even more tempo, even more RPOs. So that first read is going to be really important. And it makes sense for David Njoku to be that first read because there's not going to be anybody physically on the defense that can match up with him. And his routes are going to open up earlier. And, I heard some good things. We could easily do a spot here about Nick Chubb. Isn't that kind of a guy, if you're going to say, like, what archetype is Audric Estime in? That's the archetype. It's the Nick Chubb archetype. And Nick Chubb just as an aside, I'm turning this into a Nick Chubb take, Cease. What we saw, in case it was a small item, but an item of very large importance, that Nick Chubb was running sprints and doing agility drills. At times, there was a member of the team staff filming him. Why would they do that? And Jimmy Haslam was watching and looked pretty happy, according to observers. So you put all that stuff together, and it tells you, number one, you should expect Nick Chubb to be back earlier than you thought, and you should expect him to be as good as Nick Chubb usually is earlier than you thought. So if Nick Chubb is establishing the run, and remember, this is a team with a good offensive line, if the tackles can just stay healthy, unlike last year. So if you have Nick Chubb forcing defenses to account for him first, and you have quick reads, and you have what's Nick Chubb going to do? He's going to load the box. He's going to make there be more space in that second and third level in the middle of the field where David Njoku and his incredible athleticism can operate. So yeah, now Nick Chubb is back. Now the Browns offense is back. If you can get Deshaun Watson right, set him up for success, which is Ken Dorsey's job, and everybody in this offense can stay healthy, this is another one of those offenses that can take a big leap from where they were last year.
Big leaps abound. Well, maybe not. But with the Giants, I love seeing the Malik Neighbors highlights of all time. But Daniel Jones talking up Devin Singletary. And we've seen it before in brief glimpses, maybe some a little bit longer than others, but there's a window for Devin Singletary. Maybe that window's early this year. Maybe people aren't thinking as much about Devin Singletary as they should. And in training camp, if we talk about players who could be rising up rankings, maybe it's Singletary based on what we're hearing and based on what he's doing in camp.
He's about as cheap as a lead running back could be. And unlike at his previous stops, it appears that he has been signed, drafted to be a lead back. Eric Gray, decent all around back. Last year, I think 5th round pick. Not a lot of buzz there. Some buzz about Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy may be a discount David Johnson getting worked in with the first team. But that is for Tyrone Tracy to make some sort of impact as a rookie, not for him to usurp that lead back role. Remember, even David Johnson took a while to make an impact in Arizona. Really, whether you want to take Devin Singletary, partially it's based on what you think of Singletary, who has exceeded expectations every time he's gotten a chance. You just ask, why hasn't he gotten more chances? He's getting it now. But it's really a chip on this whole offense. And it involves some key players, being Daniel Jones, so far, yeah. If you were at Giants camp, you're getting used to the what should be a very common scene in Giants games, which is Malik Neighbors open downfield and Daniel Johnson with smoke coming out of his ears saying, I don't know what to do. I guess I'm going to run. Hopefully not get hurt at the end of the run. But Malik Neighbors should open a lot up for this offense. And not a player, Brian Dable. The other thing we're hearing is Brian Dable. Mike Kafka's not going to be a head coach, not anytime soon. That window slammed shut. He's the assistant head coach. Here's a title for you, but he's not running the offensive meetings. He's not going to be the play caller. It is going to be Brian Dable. So depending on what you think of Brian Dable as a play caller, as an offensive designer, as a leader, that you might think this offense will get back to where it was coming out of 2022 whenever Daniel Jones got paid, whenever they won a playoff game, whenever they said rebuild. This team is way ahead of schedule. Brian Dable, Joe Shane, what a great pair of hires for this. So if you like Brian Dable, that might be enough reason for you to like Devin Singletary and like this offense better than most people this year.
It is training camp time, and the news is coming in hot and heavy. How can you keep up with it? Our footballguys.com free daily newsletter. Sign up for it every single day. We'll send you the top stories right to your inbox, hot and fresh, because you have a life and we don't. And we've got now with more Bob Harris, Joe Bryant, Cecil Lammey, third person, and Sigmund Bloom, all writing the news for you every single day. It's free daily newsletter. It's at footballguys.com. And of course, if you want to support this show, best way to do that, subscribe to footballguys.com. We've got it all for you. Now, the news in Cincinnati, this is very interesting. I've even seen you tweet about this, Bloom.
Yeah.
Chase Brown. I think all fantasy GMs need to be dialed into this situation and to understand that things are changing, or maybe a little bit different than some had assumed, very dangerous, about what's going on in the Bengals backfield.
Zach Moss gets signed about $4 million a year. Not exactly starter money, but he's going to have a role in the backfield. We expected him to be goal line back, pass blocking back, and get the majority of early down work. That seemed like a potential value where he was going in the 8th, 9th round. And we saw Chase Brown show his speed, show his ability to make some impact plays in space. But what about the other parts of the game? Well, the other parts of the game are every time someone from the Bengals talks about Chase Brown, they just gush about him. And it's not just what they say about him, what they're doing with him is he's oftentimes getting the majority of the first team reps in camp. So the ADPs should probably flip here because I think that with Zach Moss, you have a limited ceiling and a lower floor than we expected. And with Chase Brown, you already have a decent floor and a higher ceiling we expected. So all of these things tell me that the Bengals, that as long as Joe Burrow stays healthy, will be one of, at least in the top half of the league offensively, if not the top third, to get either, even if this backfield split right down the middle, to get either one of these running backs in the 9th, 10th round or later is something I'm interested in. But I'm especially interested in Chase Brown because the drumbeat, and by the way, folks, every time I bristle when people give me credit for the term drumbeat. That's a Cecil Lammey trademark
Ha.
right there, the drumbeat. And every time you hear that drumbeat get louder, you remember previous years pattern matching. This kind of drumbeat often portends one of the breakout players of the season. So ignore Chase Brown at your own risk.
Sometimes, Bloom, it just comes back to like, what are the defenders going to be focused on?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you up at night? I mean, Joe Burrow, Joe Burrow, Joe
Yeah,
Burrow, Joe Burrow. Like,
right,
so an opportunity for a talented back like Chase Brown sometimes it's just apophatic. Like,
right.
to look at what it's not. Well, they're not going to be focused on defending the run, which means advantage Chase Brown.
Yeah, and see, sometimes it's just as simple as when all of the people on the team, the decision makers, are saying good things about a player, and the team appears to be preparing him for a larger role, then just take it at face value. That's Puka Nakua last year, right? Just take it
Yep.
at face value. Don't hyper over analyze everything. That's what we're here to do. You're here to win.
Yes, and for the people that say it's a time to overreacting, Puka? Huh?
Yeah,
This is a time when you should be listening. This is a time when you should be dialed in. I know, hot take, and for the love of God, we're on YouTube, so algorithm, 5 players rising the fastest. Pay attention. It's
right,
not overreacting. It's paying attention. Why did I get
right.
Puka Nakua in every single one of my leagues? Because I paid attention.
Right, right. See, where does the arms race of YouTube thumbnails and titles end? You should kill yourself if you didn't get this player in your fantasy draft. If you are
Oh my
playing
God.
fantasy football and you don't know this strategy, you need to flagellate yourself.
You're the dumbest person ever if you don't know this player. Like, come
Put your head
on.
in. Yeah, let's do
Come
it, man.
on.
Let's get this straight to the logical extreme.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well. Get off my lawn. We have to talk about Jameson Williams. I
Yeah,
love doing
yeah.
this show with you, brother. We got to talk about Jameson because it's that talent sexting.
Ooh,
Sorry, Joe.
I think you just made something up.
Intersectioning,
Yeah,
I did, with the opportunity. This offense, and again, Vic Fangio, every day. Vic Fangio's cover 4 defense is screwed fantasy football. It screwed the league. There's only 2 quarterbacks last year that had over 1,000 yards passing against cover 4 quarters, and it was Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield. Was not Pat Mahomes,
right.
right? So, okay, now you look at everything the Lions could do. Like, Bloom, you were leading the charge.
Yeah,
Where's your Lions TJ? You need like a Lions tank top now. Suns out,
yeah,
guns out for
yeah.
one Sigmund Bloom down in New Orleans. But I'm here to tell you, brother, if Jameson Williams pops, look the hell out.
Right, right. Because this isn't just a Jameson Williams take, but the Jameson Williams take, yes, if you can still get him in the 8th or 9th round of drafts, especially in best ball, he is a perfect best ball player because the weeks that he catches the 70-yard touchdown pass are going to be weeks he counts in your lineup, unlike some of the other receivers in that same part of your draft that might be more consistent than he is. We know that he's fast. He's not just fast, he's fast. That's why they moved up 2 years ago to get him, because he's the last piece. He's the rug that ties the room together in this offense. And every item out of training camp about him is something to the effect of he showed up ready to work, and it shows, and he continues to stack it day after day. So this is different than he's coming along and we're proud of the progress he's made. This is affirmation. This isn't encouragement. Okay. So and look, if you're worried about Jameson, volume. Yeah, low volume, 5 targets a game. If the average depth of those targets is like 30 yards against defenses that are pulled in every which direction because of the running game and the passing game targets and the scheme and the offensive line, then I don't care if he only gets 5 targets a game. That's fine. Not to mention he gets touches on end rounds. His speed is going to be in play here. But the bigger take here is if Jameson Williams lives up to expectations in year 3, good luck defending this offense. Good luck. And it could mean that every single Lion that stays healthy is a hit in fantasy. It could mean Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared. They're all hits. They're all hits because this offense, which plays 3 games outdoors all season, the other thing that you like about this cease is you sense in Dan Campbell, you sense in Ben Johnson, you sense in the mentality of this Lions team something like the Welker Moss Patriots. If they're up, kind of like what's going on in Miami, if they're up 35-10 in the second half, they're not necessarily going to let up. This is not a team that is going to, this is a team that's going to do what it wants to do. And if Jameson Williams is that guy, then what they want to do is going to be that much more exciting and that much easier.
Yeah, we love it. Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. So we appreciate y'all. Uh I need to go on a good rant sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we do these I don't know if I need to do that in a live show, these pre-recorded shows. Maybe I need to get my rant back, my rant game back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would scare Mace if you did that on one of your shows. Save the
I
rants for
I
late.
would, yeah. I guess I need a post-game show that's coming up or I could lose my mind.
We just yell
Uh,
in the shower and
well,
record it.
here's the thing, and I was telling you off air. I guess this will make it in the cut unless Alfredo cuts it. It's training camp, man. Like it's attention. I'll go back to the generative principle. Like attention. How do you get what you want? Pay attention. Pay attention. Like all of this news, it's not overreacting. Get off Twitter, touch some grass, man. Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Get outside, but understand, especially with our newsletter or whatever, like there is information out there that is incredibly important as players themselves manifest their own
yeah,
futures through their own action. I
yeah.
think I'm full of A words today. There's an A word that maybe Sean Payton has for me, but it's like attention, action. There's action happening. You got to pay attention to it. If you do that, win.
It's a feedback loop, Cease.
Sure.
It's a feedback loop, and if you understand the first few iterations of the loop, you can see where it's headed. You can see where it's going to be stronger and stronger in the negative or positive direction. That's why you need to pay attention, because it's clues, it's hints, precursors. We're detectives. We're putting the case together. We're going to solve it.
That's right. That is right. Okay, he is Sigmund Bloom. You can follow him on Twitter, X at Sigmund Bloom. The show is at the Audible. Make sure to help us out on YouTube. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And we appreciate you for that. Be safe, be kind. Know that you're appreciated. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We are the Audible. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty?